Right. Hey guys.
Hello.
Hello. In this video, Taylor is gonna explain a bit about him moving into like different hostels. It's a bit of a story. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna mute my mic and let Taylor sort of like tell the story. And if there's like anything that I wanna ask him, I'm gonna unmute the mic and ask him questions from time to time if there's anything I want to ask. So,
Yeah, just
you know,
ask. Just unmute and ask. He can happily interrupt me or anything. Or if I'm going too fast or anything. So shit like that. So
happy
so
days.
so yeah.
So, yeah. So, yeah, I'll unmute the mic and let Taylor tell the story.
Yeah, okay. I don't actually know where to start. Ah, okay.
Do, do you want to start right at the beginning? Like, if you want, you can start like right at the beginning, and if you if you want, depending on if you want to, obviously, if you want, you can tell and explain like why you moved into a hostel in the first place.
True. Yeah, I've got a
Like,
point. But
it's up to
yeah.
you if you want to do that. Obviously, I'm not gonna force you because you might find it a bit personal, but it's up to you. You know.
Yeah, I don't mind. Yeah, might as well do that. It's easier, I guess, for the whole situation. So I'm gonna sort of talk about in terms of timelines and the days and months and stuff where I've moved to place. And in total, I think I've spent like 2.5 years in different hostels and stuff. And prior prior or like some shit like I should say before the hostel situation, I was classed as homelessness. Before the whole hostel situation, I was it's a term called sofa surfing basically. So it's like living in place to place. You still technically have a roof over your head, but it's not as permanently just say. And I was basically living from like a couple of family members' places and such, and the reason why all of this stuff has happened due to family issues from certain family members, which I don't want to go into that all that stuff because it's not what this is videos all about basically. So yeah, it's just basically family issues which led me to being homeless. And then I've spent the whole of lockdowns with different places basically. And then when the lockdown wised up to basically back to normal sort of thing. Um
So was you homeless then, like before the lockdown stuff happened, or like was you living like
yeah.
out on the streets or anything like that, or?
So it happened just before the first lockdown happened. It was like a month or two before the actual first lockdown had put into place in here. And then I was never out from the streets. There was times where I was almost have to live on streets, but people my family members helped out basically. So basically from the first day whilst I was homeless, I was basically living with um family members and things like that basically. And despite still living with family members, that's still technically classed as homelessness basically. And also before the whole hostile situation, I was given advice from the local council and from homeless charities and such, but due to lockdowns, unfortunately, at that point I couldn't do much. So um the first like 7 or so months, so the first couple of months of the homeless journey, you should say, um I was basically living with family members and such. And then obviously throughout the many months of living with people, you I was like referred to like a hostel basically. And that's when the hostel journey happened, basically, if that
There is
makes
one
sense.
thing you forgot to mention is when you stayed with your friend in, is it London or England or something? You stayed with your friend. You forgot to mention that bit.
That was a whole different story, basically. So
Oh,
those yeah.
I thought that was part of the same thing. I do apologize. I thought that was part of you
Yeah,
being
the friend situation happened before the hostile situation throughout the many months of living with people, basically. So,
right.
you know,
Yeah, yeah.
because that was like something else happened whilst I was living with family because unfortunately my family treated me as shits and stuff like that. And yeah, that's another story for like another day. But yeah. So I'm gonna go to the house outside because I don't wanna talk about other stuff for any longer, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's cool.
Um, so on September of 2020, that was the month where I was in my first ever hostel. That was based in Cardiff, like the west side of Cardiff. Obviously, I won't share any personal information about like the name of the hostels and stuff, but the first hostel was in Cardiff. I spent there for about like 2 months until September to November of 2020. And throughout the 2 months, a lot of stuff has happened because that point was when I cut content from most of my family members. And at that point, I was basically safe enough to cut like content from them and such. And then I was allocated a support worker, and we talked about like the future and stuff. And then we basically said that it's best if we go to another hostel for me because the first hostel I've been to is more of a like a family type hostel for like people with like kids and families and stuff. So it's not really for me basically. But like I basically had no choice because of my family issues and stuff like that. So that's why I was in that first hostel. And plus like the next hostel I've been to was technically been referred like months and months beforehand, whilst I was living with family and such. So I basically have to wait until the second hostel has have like space and stuff like that. So November came. November of 2020 came. That was the fucking month that I been to the next hostel. And yeah, that was also based in Cardiff. The second hostel was also in Cardiff as well. I was there for like 6 months, 6, 7 months, from like uh the end of 2020 to like the summer-ish of 2021. And throughout the time, obviously you will see a lot of videos from Nathan's channel where we done some stuff at the time and stuff. And that was when I first like talked with Nathan regularly and started doing videos and such like that. It's just that I've spent more time before uh doing his your channel, you know. So Yeah. Um, that's what you missed basically, Nathan. You missed overflow stuff. Ah, you know. But yeah, halfway through the second hostel in Cardiff, I was talking with Nathan regularly, and we've done some videos and such, and it was fun times. Like I think that hostel was like one of the best ones in my opinion, because I did like met with some great like people, and some stuff are mostly like kind and friendly and stuff, despite like um some like issues and stuff. Because yeah, I won't go into that as well, but the reason why I had to leave from that hostel is because of um basically my safety, because um since the first hostel, when I have no contact from my family until like the second hostel, there was times where my family had tried to contact me. They went to my workplace at the time since I was working. They went to like both hostels. They tried to like call people and call organizations. I've
How how did your family find out the like where you were working and stuff at the time? Like how did they find out like where your hostel was and where you were working and like how did they find all that out?
I've worked before the homelessness happened. So I was working before that happened. I was basically living with my mum at the time that I first started working. So they knew about that beforehand. And with the hostel situations, my not my mum, because I cut contact from my mum since the lockdown when I left her, basically, because I had issues with mum, and then I was living with mum at the time. I left mum. My dad has a place on his own, so I lived with him for a bit whilst the homeless shits happened. So like they just told multiple like family members about like the updates and stuff about myself basically. And since my dad knew about my first hostel because I was living and speaking with him at the time and such. So it's from different people basically and family members. That's where they have all of this like information about my works and the hostels and stuff basically.
So are
Um
you still speaking like with your dad now then, or have you cut off contact with your dad now as well?
I've cut my content from my dad since the very first hostel, because that's because throughout the the time I've lived with my dad, he's done some stuff to me as well, which again I won't go into. It's quite toxic and abusive, and it's to the point where uh he had other family members believe in my dad over myself, sort of situation. And yeah, that's what happened basically with people. Um so yeah, the reason why I left my second hostel is because of my safety with my family and such. Um and that was also when I moved like areas, you should say, because the next house I was in Bridgend, basically. And I've spent like another 2 months throughout part of summer in the next hostel in Bridgend. Um the hostel was when I kinda had some breaking points, if that makes sense. Because since um since when I moved to the Bridgend and Hostel, that's when like my my health started to deteriorated basically. Because obviously I had to move to an area. I been through some stuff with people and family and such like that. And then that was also a time um where I was trans basically, because that was the time where I was trans and such like that, but I didn't tell anyone with it. Actually, that's another story with that sort of stuff, but yeah, just a lot of stuff happening, and that was when obviously I had mental health issues, and that was when I done risky decisions basically, and stuff like that. And yeah, throughout the 2 months of the hostel and Bridgend, the first one at least was like horrible basically. Uh, so yeah, I spent like May to July of 2021 ish in that hostel in Bridgend. And the reason why I moved to the next hostel was because of my transgender issue. Because in the first hostel in Bridgend, it's all like women's place. It's basically a refuge, basically more than a hostel, but it's classed as a hostel as well. So I ended up basically telling the support worker in Modern at the time about the issue, and she gave me options to either stay in the hostel and basically live a lie of my gender and stuff until something happens with the place also, or whatever happens next sort of thing, or I can move to another hostel. So what I've done, I moved to another hostel in Bridgend for a couple of weeks or so. I've stayed in another hostel for 3 weeks or so. Like it's only for a couple of weeks. Nothing major happened there. I've just spent the rest of July in another hostel, basically. Nothing to say in this next hostel because like nothing really has been happening there. However, I have to move to another hostel in Bajent again because they said it was more beneficial for me because the second hostel was basically like a shared accommodation. Like we all just given a separate bedroom. That's it. Like we didn't have anything else and stuff basically. So that wasn't fully suitable. So by August of 2021, I had moved to another hostel in Bridgend. So in total, I've spent three like hostels, you should say, in Bridgend. And the last one in Bridgend was the last one. That's where I've spent my time the most in Bridgend. I was there for almost a year or so. That wasn't too bad. Like sometimes I did have issues with certain support workers at the time because there was times where people wouldn't respect who I really am uh as I had issues with like support workers with like how we was treated basically, because sometimes we would talk to support workers with issues, but sometimes myself and other people who was living there wasn't like being heard of basically. So
You'd think that they would like respect you and like hear you out and like respect your decisions, because at the end of the day, that is their job, isn't it? Really, to hear you out and like respect your like decisions on what gender you feel you are and stuff like that.
Yeah, and that's the issue with the majority of support workers throughout my hostel life, basically, both in Cardiff and Bridgend, because I fully knew that I was a male, basically, in the last hostel I had in Cardiff,
Mm,
because at that time I like questioned myself basically about who I am, and I briefly like told my support workers back in Cardiff with it, but
mm.
they were not happy with it basically.
Yeah, because
So
I remember
yeah.
like there were times like when we would be on Skype and they would like misgender you, and I'd be thinking like, what are they doing? You know? Sorry, go on. What was you gonna say then?
So yeah, yeah, as you said, like there's been times when I've talked to people about the situation, but people are just misgendering me. They like said stuff said stuff about it. And then especially the one in Cardiff, like nobody, I mean like there are some support workers and stuff which are at least trying to respect, excuse me, they are trying to respect it at least, but with other ones they were, you know, not so good with it basically. It is a shame that like those stuff happened, but it is what it is, I guess, in the end of the day. And I'm glad that I'm not in like some of those hostels anymore, because some of those hostels are like some of those like hostels are like a woman's only like space. And despite being born as a female, but like it's just some points in my life in the hostel is just not fair on me basically. But thankfully, on the summer of 2022, I live in Porthcawl ever since. And it's been like over a year and it's insane. And I've spent like almost 2 years all together in like hostels basically. And like
A hostel though in Porthcawl or no? Because I can't really remember. Did you live in a hostel in Porthcawl at all?
uh not in Porthcawl particularly. So basically in my three, I mean like in the three hostels I've been to in Bridgend, two of them are like in town centre or like not so far to town, but there is the second one, which is just like on the outskirts of Bridgend. It's not in Porthcawl, but it's more towards where like Macabre Glen is. It's not too far from there. It's not like it's basically an area which not many people are aware of, sort of thing. So yeah, like but they all classes Bridgend still, so that's why I've put all three of them in Bridgend because, you know. Um but yeah, I never lived a hostel in Porthcawl. Um the time I was in Porthcawl I have my own place basically. So yeah, I don't think I mean, yeah, I don't know what else to say for the most part because see you there. Yeah, I don't know what else to say. Because sometimes life is just sucks in hostels, basically. But you know, uh, I think that's it. Any questions, I guess?
And plus as well, to like when you live in a hostel, like you are allowed to stay out, but you're only allowed to stay out a certain number of nights, aren't you?
That's true. Yeah, I forgot about that. So basically, so most hostels have a set of hours for you to go out and to come back and all that stuff because um basically in hostels you can't leave the hostel too early in the morning, but you also can't leave too late in the night as well. And there's been issues with some hostels where people had come into hostels too late, people who are living there. And like in one particular hostel in Bajan, there's been times where like people had to literally lock themselves out from the hostel because of their rules and stuff. So in terms of that, like I could somehow understand, but it's also a bit ridiculous. And if you do need to go out from the hostel like longer than their set hours, you have to let them know beforehand. Otherwise, like, you just breaking the rules basically. And in terms of their overnight stays, like with a different place, um, I guess typically in most hostels you can allow to stay with other people or so like for a few nights, but you also have to let somebody know, like a support worker, you have to let them know about like the overnight stays and stuff. And they also have rules about like where to say no, like basically in some hostels you have to fill in some form to like say like where you are, how many days you're going out, all that stuff basically. And you have to set by those like stuff and rules and such, otherwise things might happen otherwise. So not that it doesn't affect me, like that didn't affect me whatsoever, but yeah, sometimes it kind of sucks as well for you have to tell somebody. As I said, like I get it, but like we're all adults in the end of the day, so I don't know. I don't know how I feel about it, but yeah, I guess every hostel is different, I guess, so I can't say much about that really. And then also in hostels too, you typically have like weekly or like a session regularly basically where um people and support workers talk about like your future, you should say, about like housing issues and like mental health stuff and financial stuff. They do like talk about issues like that with you as well. So yeah, I guess I mean like there was times where I had to miss sessions and stuff because of support workers. So sometimes that's not the best, but yeah, you basically have to set a you have to basically like basically typically in hostels you have like a set of rules and stuff. You have to follow the rules, which includes um the days out, the nights out, the hours and such, and they have like house rules and stuff like that where like you do this, you don't do this, you do that, all that stuff basically. But yeah, uh, yeah, they have stuff. So I don't know what else to say, but yeah. Ah, any more? stuff to say or questions or anything about anything or whatever?
Um, Not that I can think of.
Because I don't have anything else to say typically. I don't think. Um.
Yeah. The other thing I was going to mention is like you've also done like a meditation thing, didn't you? In one of the hostels, you've done like a meditation thing, which
Yeah.
you didn't really, which you didn't really enjoy, did you? To be fair.
Yeah. Also, in a majority of hostels, they do have like what's the word? They have um like things put into place as well. In some hostels, you have like sessions where people from other organizations comes in and they do like sessions like arts, like where you do like arts and stuff. People have done like cooking lessons with people. People do certain other activities from different hostels too. I mean, it's not just like things like that. There's also some like programs and some other things where hostels can provide you too. For example, in one of the hostels in Cardiff, they also do like uh like a training or like an education type of thing where like if people want to do education, they do education classes and stuff like that or whatever. And then like another organization which I went in yeah, confusion. It's confusing, but basically you can do like programs and activities and stuff as well and things like that, provided by the company and the hostels and other stuff. And as Nathan was saying, in one of those like activity type of sessions, I was doing some meditation from one of the support workers at the time. I was back in Cardiff. I was doing videos and stuff with Nathan, and basically, like I didn't personally like it. Like I guess it's just some experience for me or whatever. I guess that's the only thing to say about it, but yeah, sometimes it was awkward because it was awkward and that particular support worker was like a bit weird to be honest. Because like she said stuff which it was basically mind blowing but in like a creepy way slash like being sus about stuff. And no offense to a particular support worker, but she's a bitch. She's a fucking bitch. No fucking joke. But like other people say that they like her, and I guess that particular support worker was like one of those support workers where some people like her, some people hate her. I personally hate her because um when I first um came out as a male basically, she was actually one of the first people that I ever told anyone about. And then she basically took it the wrong way. Like she doesn't believe all of us trans stuff personally, in my opinion. And also I'm pretty sure that she is like some feminist or something along those lines and stuff as well. So it just seems like she doesn't like support trans people basically. So yeah, that had affected me in terms of that. And um yeah, I didn't like say anything to anyone else about this whole situation until the next hostel. So yeah, it just shows that some people are just a bitch, I guess, with stuff really, you know? So yeah, it is what it is in the end of the day, I guess, you know? But yeah, I was just saying that some psychologists are a bitch. basically, you know. So yeah.
I'm trying to think if there was anything else
Same.
to to mention.
Except the
Um,
fuck you on the fucking ketchup situation in Cardiff.
oh yeah, that was for yeah. Yeah. Do you want to tell him about that?
That was fun times. Like, that was in the same hostel about, like, the support I've just said. Because in that hostel in Cardiff, despite having one or two support workers, which are assholes basically towards people, but for the most part, in terms of like the experience and content and that sort of stuff, I did somehow enjoy that. And one of those days where I was doing videos with Nathan, I was feeling like funny and sus and stuff like that. I was like in my funny state and mind basically. So like I don't exactly remember what happened like beforehand, but I basically got tomato ketchup from the cupboards in the kitchen area, and I put "fuck you" down on like basically I had tomato ketchup, and I was holding it on my hand, and then like since like the tables and the services and all that stuff was recently cleaned, I opened it and I put "fuck you" down on the fucking tables on the service area. And then what I've done is I left it for a little bit. I pretended to go back upstairs as if nothing happened or whenever I was at the time. I came back down. I pretended to go to the kitchen and be like, "Oh, yeah, someone said fuck you." And then I went to the support worker on the day and I told her what happened. But I don't think I've told her that I was the one who done it. So I think she might have assumed that it was somebody else, but yeah. That's one day. There also another there was another day as well where I didn't talk to anyone about this. So one of the house rules is you can't take any like legal stuff with you, like drugs and things like that. And there was some people who lived in the hostel at the time. Some of them were taking cannabis basically. You know, you do you. I'm not offended by it. But there was one time where I saw cannabis on the fucking table, and I was like, "Oh shit!" I was like, basically, what happened was on the day, this is so funny thinking about it now. So basically, I was in like the sitting room area in like the ground floor, just like watching some TV. And then the room next door to the sitting room where like next door to that is where like the staff and support workers are basically. So like it's just like kind of next to each other. And then on the floor between the the sitting room and the office, literally in between those rooms, there was there was a bag of cannabis. I don't know why I'm laughing about this. There was literally a bag of cannabis between those two rooms, and I was like, "Oh shit!" Like it was just randomly there, sort of thing. And then, like, I was just walking out from the room and into the kitchen table close by, and there was another bag of cannabis. And I was like, what the fuck? So, like, I didn't say much about it. Like, I didn't, like, say anything to people. But, like, the week after, because there was a like a staff like meeting between us and the staff. I went like somebody brought it up about the cannabis situation, And then like it in the end, after that, like the support workers ended up giving somebody a warning because of it. Like it's crazy. Like this is what I mean by house rules. Like, people are just too strict basically about that, So yeah, that was another story about that. It was just unexpected that I found 2 bags of cannabis on the same fucking day. And then like the thing which gets to me too is like none of the staff realized about that until like I presume later on the day. So I just don't get why people just, don't say much about it basically. So yeah, that was another story,
Yeah, another story that came to my head as well, whilst you were telling that, was the whole business with the ice cream. Tell them about that one.
So okay, so at that point with the ice cream, I was living in the first hostel in Bridgend, the one after Cardiff basically. So it was my first like day there actually. It was my first or second day or so. And in the hostel was a type of hostel where we had to share like kitchen stuff and like things basically. And then in the kitchen there's like numbered um there's like cupboards and stuff in like numbers because at that time we were given like numbers to our like room. So basically what happened was I was in the freezer just like checking stuff out, and in the freezer it also has numbers from each like person with each like uh drawer sort of thing, if that makes sense. And so in my section where the numbered thing is, I opened my drawer in the freezer and there was ice cream in there. So I just assumed that since it's like my like number, it's basically my thing. I basically assumed that it was mine. And nobody had labeled anything there, so I just basically assumed it was mine. But like we had a but after that, I've took the ice cream. I basically took it with me, and I ate the whole thing within like a day or so, or whatever. However, the week after that, on the second week of me living there, basically, myself and the other people who were living there, we had a meeting with the support worker there, and then on the day, like towards the end, the supporter said that, hey, just letting you know that somebody took ice cream out from this person. And then they stated somebody's name. Like they actually said somebody's name, and then after that, like the person who bought the ice cream said that, hey, somebody ate it, sort of thing. Like it was awkward because like nobody said anything after all, so I just didn't know what was happening. And then like also on the day, the support worker basically said that you shouldn't like take anyone's stuff, which obviously I get that. However, the thing about that time was since the ice cream was under my fucking number, it was basically mine, if that makes sense. Like, yeah, I get that
Yeah.
I was technically stealing someone's ice cream, which I get, but I didn't know about any of those stuff
Did you
basically.
ever like did you ever confess to the support workers or to anyone that it
No,
was you that took it?
no.
No. Oh,
And it's not just the ice cream I took, so basically when I moved to the next hostel in Bridgend, I also stole some knives and forks and plates and stuff because at that point I didn't have any like cutlery or anything like that. So throughout the time I was in the first hostel in Midland, I took some plates and stuff with me, and nobody had said anything since. So yeah, I've stole that basically. Besides that, yeah, it was all good. So nothing particular happened there. Otherwise, I don't think. So
So, question actually, when you say the support worker said you shouldn't take other people's food without asking, which was the support worker saying that to you specifically, or was they saying it to everyone in general?
it was basically everyone in general because at that point where she told us, she set up a meeting for for everybody in general to have discussions about stuff. And one of those discussions is about the ice cream situation. So it was basically brought up from the support worker in that meeting. So it's like a everybody thing. So yeah, I'm glad Tom's of that. Because yeah.
Yeah. Are there any other
Mm,
stories that happened? Because I think there was a while on there where like when we didn't do any filming or anything. Is there any stories or anything that you want to share that happened between in that
yeah.
time period? Because it was during August of 2021, wasn't there? And then we started doing videos again. Then in December of that year, are there any other stories that happened between towards the end of August and the end of December that happened
Uh,
that you can think of that are worth like sharing? Well, I suppose any story is worth sharing, really. So, like, is there
true.
anything? So, is there anything else that happened in like that time frame of like towards the end of August and the end of December that happened? It's you know.
Uh, Nothing between those months. I don't think anything happened in particular. I guess the main thing which happened is there was times where like random people just knock on my window because since at that point I just recently moved into the final hostel in Bridgend. So at that point I was just like settling in. I was like doing my day to day stuff and all that stuff in uh in the hostel and such. But I guess the only issue is since my flat at the time was in like was in a ground floor type of thing. It is one of those flats where it is quite accessible to people to go to my window sort of thing. So there was times where people just knock on my window like randomly, and I didn't quite understand why at the time until one of the support workers at the time
I'm
they
sorry.
told.
Is it when that? Is it? Sorry for interrupting. Is it when that woman was knocking on you? Like, remember when you sent me that video of the woman like knocking on your door? Is that the time you're on about?
No, that was a different situation.
Or, I do apologize. Go on and continue with talking.
So yeah, basically throughout the time between August to December, there was a time where uh, a few people had knocked on my window outside, but that was only because basically um what's the word? That's because the previous like person before me, before I lived there, he was the type of person where he was being all friendly with, he was talking to a lot of people, So the reasons why people had knocked on my window back in the day was because of the previous person. And yeah, like nothing much has happened throughout that particular hostel. I guess there was times where people were just unexpectedly like had moved out and moved on, new people came in, and then there was issues with some uh people there in the hostel which I wasn't involved, and there was times the police came and sorted out like antisocial behaviors and things like that. There was issues between certain people in the hostels and stuff, which I don't remember what happened. And yeah, I mean, besides that, like it's not too bad in that particular hostel. The thing Nathan was talking about the random girl with knocking my door was that was the time I was in um the one in Cardiff where the support worker was doing some saucy meditation. It was in that point. Um, so what happened was there was some people in that particular hostel in Cardiff which been through like mental health issues and stuff like that. And so what happened was that this woman had mental health issues basically, and like she also hears like voices and stuff like that. She tends to hear things. So sometimes she has a like habit where she knocks on like people's doors and stuff. And it's not just my door, it's other people's doors as well. And since my bedroom was right next to her bedroom, because like with her door and my door is literally like right next door. So sometimes I would hear her like talking to herself like openly about stuff. She knocked on my door multiple times, and especially in the night, I hear her talking to herself about issues with other people there. So, but yeah, that was all due to her mental health, basically, about the knocking the door stuff. So, yeah, that was a situation, you know. Um, so yeah, yeah.
And there was another one as well. There was also another woman as well. In fact, there was two other situations. There was one where you went into this woman's room and she was high or something, wasn't it? And she was doing all crazy stuff.
Funny enough, those in the same hostel. Like the two situations with those two different people, they both was in the same fucking hostel. Obviously, they were in different times, but yeah. So basically, um, with the first woman, because the second woman with knocking doors, that was happened like after Christmas of 2020 for like a couple of weeks. And then before Christmas that year, like basically since when I moved to the hostel in Cardiff to Christmas time, um, there was this one woman. She was there for like a month or so. Not like obviously she was there before I was there, but throughout a couple of weeks or so of me going and living there in Cardiff, there was this one woman who takes drugs and stuff. She takes cannabis and something else, but I can't remember the other thing. So, um, basically, long story short, there was times where she would be all friendly towards me, and there was times where she got out and bought drugs and then comes in smelling like cannabis basically and things like that. So there was one point where the woman knocked my door to see what I was she was talking about stuff basically. And then she then invited me to her room. So I went to her room, and then I can obviously tell she was high because she was like behaving a bit differently. And then her room was a fucking mess. Like it's awful. Like it's like there was like bits of rubbish and clothes and things like that everywhere. Excuse me, everywhere. And then like there was like things like happening which was sus and stuff. And there was like bags of cannabis, there was alcohol everywhere and all that stuff. So yeah, she was a bit like loopy basically. And I'm pretty sure she also had mental health issues as well. So yeah, that was that, I guess. So yeah, there was people who go through mental health stuff in the hostel, unfortunately. So,
Was there times like you said like there were times like where she'd been like were there times like where she would be like horrible towards you like because she was so high on cannabis and whatever else she was taking, like was there times like where she'd come across as like horrible or scary or anything?
um, in general, the way she spoke to people are a bit slurred, and obviously there was times where I obviously knew that she was like taking alcohol or drugs, etc. And then unfortunately, one sec, my phone is on 5%. I'll do this quick, but basically, unfortunately, she tends to argue with people at times, tends to like argue with people with stuff. And then towards myself particular, unfortunately, she would ask people for money. She would ask people for money, and unfortunately, there was times where I basically gave in. Like I did give her the money, like not that much, but she then spends those money and stuff on drugs, unfortunately. And there was actually one incident where like she took me with her to this place for like there was one time basically where me and her we went to a taxi together to like the local shop and she bought alcohol and stuff like that. And she let me have some too, which was fucking crazy. And then also as well, she then spent the money and stuff I gave her for basically drugs. Like she went to this place, like to this house, like down the road to the thing, and then that was when like she bought drugs and stuff like that. So yeah, there was times where she did take advantage to people's like mental health and people's drugs and stuff and money and all that stuff like that. Thankfully, with the money situation, thankfully with the money situation, she did give me that back. So that's a good thing at least. But yeah, she was basically taking advantage of people. So yeah, that's a thing. And then yeah, you
And the
know.
other thing I was going to bring up quickly as well was there was somebody else who kept knocking on your door every morning and asking if she was leaving or something, wasn't it?
That was basically the second woman. Like the second woman tends to like knock people's like doors and stuff. That was like the same one
It's
I
the same
talked about
woman, is it?
earlier. Yeah, yeah, it was.
All right.
And we both left within like a couple of weeks or so. So I take it. We both had issues and stuff, and we both have to move on. So, you know. But yeah, I don't have
It
anything
is
else to say, but
yeah, I think that's it now. I think we've pretty much covered everything.
plus I have to go in like a couple of minutes anyways for something else. So.
Yeah,
So good timing.
and plus your thumb's gonna die.
Yeah, it's gonna die soon, so I have to go
Bloody hell, this
anyways.
video is like an hour long.
Oh well,
Yeah, it's like a long documentary thing, isn't it?
it
I think
actually
that's what I'll
is.
do. I'll put like documentary at the end of the title because that's what I tend to do with things like this. I tend to write documentary at the end.
Go ahead. Yeah, go
You
for it.
know. Right. So I think that's it.
Yeah, I'm done. So,
Yeah. Thanks for taking the time to do this. Tell your story.
you're welcome, and thanks for letting me do this, I guess.
You're very welcome. Is there anything else you want to say briefly to the viewers?
Thanks for listening, and I'm sorry if this might trigger you about stuff, but oh well, it is what it is.
Yeah, it is what it is. Right.
Yeah, yeah, I'm done,
Right.
otherwise.
Thank you guys.
Yeah, thanks, guys. See
Right.
you guys soon.
See you guys soon. Bye.
Bye bye.